Welcome back, everybody. This week we have once again another very special guest for you all. I want everybody to welcome to the show Mr. Frank Martin. Welcome, Frank.
Hello. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you and your two lovely doggos that we get to see. So if if you're listening this week, you should probably head over to YouTube and check those cute dogs out. But thanks for being on the show, Frank. As we do with all our first timer guests, we want to do just a quick origin story of, what got you into comics. Have you always been a comic fan? What made you want to create a comic? That sort of thing. So let's start there.
As a writer, I primarily started doing prose stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're in elementary school and you do your little creative writing assignment, they don't say, "Okay, write a comic book script." They say, "Write your little short story." And I kind of got hooked with the idea of crafting your own tale.
Yep.
So from there, I kept on writing my own stuff, and I just didn't stop. So I wrote fan fiction and original works. And I would say around middle school is when I really started getting hooked into comics. I mean, I read comics now and then before that, but I never really was addicted to the point where I had to go every single Wednesday and get my weekly fix.
Yeah.
And then, I continued writing stories and I continued reading comics for about, 10, 15 years. And at some point I'm like, maybe I should just give this a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was extremely naive about how difficult it would be and what the learning curve was. So after several failed endeavors, I eventually just started with the short story of writing a short script and doing 5-6 pages comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I just compiled them together in an anthology. And now I'm building my way up. I'm doing one-shots and two-parters and miniseries. And that's kind of how the story went.
Was that first anthology, was that the Modern Godhood book?
No, that was Modern Testament. So Modern Testament was my first story I wrote was about an angel, and it was 10 pages. And I was kind of like, okay, what can I do with a 10-page story about an angel? You can't really just produce a 10-page comic.
Right.
So I was like, let me continue on with this theme. And I did another story about a horseman of the apocalypse and did a story about a demon. And then I had 3 stories. That was enough for, I don't remember how long it was, 32 pages or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it's an actual comic. And I got picked up by Insane Comics, which is now no longer around. But the publisher at the time, James, said, would you continue doing this? And I said, sure. So I did 3 other books, the same theme, and then with short stories and compiled them together. And that became a book of 15 stories called Modern Testament. And I didn't want to do it anymore because I was like, okay, this is my thing. I made so many of these stories. But what I decided to do was do crossovers with other indie tales. So Lou Cooper's Hollow Girl, I did a book called Hollow Testament with Braden Cox's Reclaiming Godhood was Modern Godhood, and that was a very long story to answer your question. So that's where that came about. Yes, it was a crossover of that original anthology with another series.
Okay, so now you want to tell, you're kind of getting away from the, I guess you'll tell us, but the demons and the angels and stuff to do a little more of a realistic story, I guess, like about a homicide. So what's this Kickstarter? What is the Last Homicide?
So yeah, I bounce around a lot between genres. My last Kickstarter was a sci-fi story. This one is a strictly kind of grounded reality detective noir tale of just 2 cops. They got a murder and they have to figure out who did it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really influenced by old school golden age of Hollywood type stuff like Maltese Falcon.
Yep.
And I wanted to do something. I always try to do something different. I don't try to walk in my same footsteps from project to project. So this is in way left field from anything I've done before. But I've always loved the genre. People tend to find these tropes and stereotypes bleeding into other kinds of genres. Like you have neo-noir and cyberpunk, and you see all sorts of comedy like Who Framed Roger Rabbit with cartoon characters running around.
Right.
So, I wanted to take all those things that are familiar to people and just kind of bring it back to its core and do something that's just really rooted in the crime and the murder mystery, hard-boiled 2 cops on the beat trying to figure this thing out.
Mm-hmm. And there's a little more involved with like the mob too, right?
A little bit. I'm channeling my inner Sopranos with this thing.
Yeah. So is this a plan to continue something like this, or is this just a one shot and you're kind of done with this? You could take these characters somewhere else, or
The story is a two-parter.
okay.
So the Kickstarter is for part one, and part two is going to be coming a couple months down the line. But after that, I think we're going to wrap it up. I don't think I'm going to consider this like an arc, where I might do a second story, a follow up. This will be the last homicide, the last of the last homicides. So, I should probably do the pitch too about what it's about. So
yeah, let's hear it.
So there's a detective that's retiring, and he's got a younger partner, and this is their last homicide working together, and it happens to be the murder of a crime boss's son. It's an adult son. I didn't kill off a kid at the beginning of the book.
Okay, that's probably good.
In this city, it's a very corrupt city. It's run by two rival mob bosses, and everybody's afraid that this is going to tip the scales into all-out gang war. So as this guy's last homicide case, he's got to solve it to stop these two mob bosses from basically tearing the city apart.
Yeah, I loved how throughout that first issue, you're really hitting on all the tropes for the detective noir style books. Guy's last day, or his last case, and the mob that's almost at war and all this stuff. You're hitting on so many good little things throughout it.
Yeah. I mean, they're tropes, they're stereotypes, but there's a reason that they're around because they work. They're classic. Yep. The aging, retiring, kind of cynical detective and the spunky, upbeat partner. I mean, that's kind of what Seven is. It's exactly the dynamic of Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. So, yeah, I try to do stuff that's familiar, but do my own version of it, my own spin on it.
And one of the things I love about it is the cover that's poster style. I don't know if it's the color scheme or the integration of the cop with the dead body in the city. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's got that old school kind of what's the word, Art Deco kind of feel to it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It immediately gets you in that vibe, that atmosphere, that headspace. So it's like you can't look at that and think and be mistook for what the story is about. You just immediately know what you're going to get. So
exactly. You look at that cover and you're like, oh, okay, I got the vibe of what the story is going to be telling. So as far as the Kickstarter goes, I mean, we have a little over 2 weeks left. You're over halfway, but still, I mean, there's some awesome goals here. You have all digital for people, right? You have a deluxe edition.
The deluxe edition is I have two short black and white crime comics. I think they're 5 or 6 pages. They've been sitting on my computer. They haven't really been doing much. So I decided to package those together as part of the deluxe. So they get the book and they get 2 short crime comics as part of the digital deluxe. Okay,
awesome. You have an exclusive Kickstarter cover too, right?
Yeah, that's in the noir version of the cover that we've been talking about, where it's just there's no dress on it, no title, and it's in complete stark black and white. So I thought that was pretty cool. It looks awesome like that. So that's a Kickstarter available. I'm just going to print just enough to kind of fill it. And that's it. It might be available in part 2 when I run the campaign then, but it won't be you can't get it from my store or anything.
So, and this is, I think we've done, I don't know, Chris, we probably have promoted over 100 Kickstarters at this point, but I've never seen a pledge for a private Drabble lesson. What is that all about? Yeah. Is that even a word? What the? Yeah.
So that's always a tough kind of slot to fill for me. That $75 tier level. I can never figure out what could go in there, and I always try different things. So what a drabble is, it's a short story of exactly 100 words.
Okay.
So it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit like a puzzle because you have to figure out ways to get to 100 words. It's a lot more difficult than you think. You always wind up with way more, and you got to kind of condense it to a story that makes sense. And I've written a lot of these so far. I've written, I don't know, close to 200.
Wow.
So I feel like I'm kind of pretty good at it. And I thought that would be, it's brand new. I've never offered it before. Nobody's taken me up on it yet. But I think I'm experimenting with that slot because I never know to put in that $75 kind of that range.
Right.
So yeah, it's basically a 45-minute kind of Zoom lesson, one-on-one. We'll write one together. I'll give you the kind of the tips and tricks to kind of condense it, get it down to actually tell something that's fulfilling and doesn't feel like it's going to be stretched out into a longer story. You know, it's kind of like a shot, just quick, get in, get out, tell a little tale.
And I mean, the constraint is those 100 words too. So it's like, how do you ever like get to the end and you're like, oh man, I gotta like rush this through, or like I have a lot more to tell? How do you fit that all in?
I mean, from the beginning, I know exactly what I'm going to tell. So it's not like I'm writing a story where I feel like I need 200 more words to wrap this up. But it always winds up to either 96 or 115, you know, so I'm always in that range. And then at that point, it becomes more like a puzzle to kind of cut things, add things to give it to the right flow. Because sometimes you add a single word to the sentence, it completely changes the sentence structure and the flow of the sentence. So you don't want to add something and then you realize I need to add 2 more words to make it make sense, and then you're over your limit. So you gotta play with it.
And then, I mean, these rewards keep going. Like there's even one to create a comic there, Chris. I don't know if you saw that one. That was, yeah, I mean, these are definitely, you're changing it up here from what we've normally seen. I mean, like working with the team to create a short digital comic. I feel like that's a pretty cool idea.
My usual big ticket item, and you always got to throw like one crazy big ticket item out there, because then it makes all the ones that are below it don't feel bad.
Yeah, right. And yeah, the detective story short commission of that. I mean, these are all great. Yeah, so I mean, it's got to get funded. I mean, come on, we only have a little over 2 weeks. It sounds amazing. There's so many awesome stretch goals and stuff like that, or not stretch goals, but pledges. So
yeah, I'm not big on the putting out the stretch goals there before you actually goal.
Yeah.
I'm a very cynical person by nature, so I'm always assuming that I'm going to get like 99% of the way there, and then 50 people are just going to back out all at once.
Yep.
So I like to wait till I'm well past that goal before I go. Yay, stretch goal time.
Yeah. There's there's 2 tactics there. You could put them all up front, or reward the people for sticking around.
Yeah.
I just want to read the story.
So, Frank, I gotta ask, Pietro and Eugene here, your art team, did you create them in a lab to be the perfect artists for a noir story, or how did you find these guys? Because the art for this book is amazing.
So Eugene, I've worked with on a couple shorts before. I'm working with him on another horror project, but I felt like he can embody that atmosphere well. And Pietro, I developed this project with him from the beginning. So we were talking online about what type of story he wanted to tell, and I said I want to develop a crime story. That's kind of my genre, that's my wheelhouse. And I pitched him a couple ideas, and he owned in on one. So yeah, it was just a matter of matching them together, and it worked really well, as you can tell by the cover, because that's all them. That's not like a separate cover artist that put that all together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and his colors are great, but his shading, his use of blacks throughout it, just really made it set the stage for a good crime noir story, which is always really important for these books.
Yeah, lots of shadows.
You got to have that kind of pulpy, moody feel to it. I just read Brubaker's Pulp because I figure I'm launching a crime book. I need to read more crime stories, and that was
right.
I don't know if you guys have read that, but he jumps back and forth between kind of the Wild West era and the 30s kind of gangster era. And it's 2 different art styles between those 2 eras, but it really gives that pulp feel to it, like an old school kind of one of those pulp magazines or something. So yeah, the art is a tremendous tool to kind of get the setting down and the mood down and the atmosphere down. And based on what people are saying from this book, that the art accomplished that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. There's no more masterful people in this genre than Brubaker and Sean Phillips.
Yeah, for sure. Well, awesome, Frank. I mean, we're gonna link the Kickstarter on our page, but if our followers want to follow you and all the stuff that you're doing, where can we send them?
I'm simple. I'm Frank the Writer. So frankthewriter.com is my website. I have
Awesome.
a bunch of free stories on there, free comics. You can sign up for my newsletter. I send out 2 a month, kind of just updating. And all my social media is at Frank the Writer too. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Frank the Writer. You can find me there, kind of pushing this Kickstarter like there's no tomorrow, because that's
Awesome.
that's the name of the game.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. Gotta sell it. So, yeah, thanks for being on, man, and we'd love to have you back. So good luck with the Kickstarter, and we'll definitely have you back for another project for sure.
I appreciate it. I'll let you guys know.